episode 11.
11.
That's a lot of them.
Is it?
Well, I guess not really.
No, I don't think so. Although, if it's once a week, 11 weeks. I was
11
thinking
weeks,
11 weeks is
right?
a lot. So if something is going on for 11 weeks, you're like, oh, that's a long time.
Yeah, right?
But it doesn't feel like we've been recording or posting for 11 weeks.
Right. I have no idea what we're talking about.
Oh, yeah, we don't have a topic. I was hoping that we're going to get to the point where we don't have topics.
Don't have to have a topic.
No. I mean, I know some of the things I want to talk about, but
Eventually, there's just no topics. It's just two people sitting down and talking. It's basically the Seinfeld of podcasts. A podcast about nothing.
This is what I thought would be useful. And so I will clarify this. By no means we're somewhere where this is like set in stone, or this is like it, or there's nothing past this. But maybe like do a reverb of where we stand on our personal path of spiritual awareness or enlightenment or awakening, whatever you want to call it, right now. And maybe like contrast just where we stand right now to how things were for us before, and like those net differences that are very obvious.
Okay. That's a good idea.
Yeah, because I mean, you and I recently have been saying like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. Like I've been saying, oh my gosh, I can't believe it, all the shit. Right. And so in retrospect, you can see it.
Yeah. What used to be just normal everyday life. Now it's like, oh, I don't want anything to do with that. It all seems so. There's a lot of words I could use here.
Well, no.
Busy.
No.
And
No, but I think it needs to be clarified. It's not that
life being less hectic is the effect. It's not the cause here. That's an effect out of this.
Yeah. But we're not doing anything different. Right? Less hectic, from the three-dimensional standpoint, implies we're doing less stuff or we're participating in different stuff.
In fact,
everything is
I feel
quite
like
the same.
More productive, I guess, if I don't feel any less productive. It's not that.
Mm-mm.
It's not work's gotten easier. It's not that. It's that all the stuff that used to occupy mental space, psychic space, either doesn't or occupies a whole lot less. There was just a lot of like stuff. It's like, I guess years ago, whenever we stopped like paying attention to the news, if anybody out there still watches the news, here's a pro tip. Stop watching the news. Stop reading the news, because none of it matters. Imagine going back and watching last Thursday's news. Who would do that? That's insane. Why would you care about what happened last Thursday? Okay, well, every day, tomorrow will be yesterday's news. Tomorrow will be yesterday's news. If you wait another day, then the news today doesn't matter. So just keep waiting another day, and you never have to watch the news, and it doesn't matter. And if it's really, really important, you'll hear about it somehow.
I've mentioned that to people before, and then they're like, oh, there's this like automatic fight back.
Yeah.
To like, how dare, like, I need to know what's going on in the world, or
right.
like,
but what would you? I guess to them, I would ask, what are you going to do about that? Okay, you know that there's the war in Ukraine or the war in Israel, and okay, you have information, but is that making your life better, or is that now one more thing to worry about?
Yeah, the question is maybe what is causing you to be so attached to the news?
Yeah.
If the people that I said that to, and they had the reaction that they did, what was
there's a fear of missing out.
Missing out on what? On knowledge?
Knowledge, information, of being in the know. Maybe some people, not everybody, maybe some people get get something, some sort of validation out of being the one that knows and then shares it with their group. Maybe. I mean, that's not everybody, but some people.
Yeah. I mean, there's like, oh, if I don't know what's going on in the world, how am I going to prepare for the worst case scenario? I think
Right.
there's a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Some people might have that.
I mean, and all of that makes sense to some degree, but to anyone, I would recommend it. Go a week, go a month, and just don't check the news. And every time you want to check the news, think, why is it I want to check the news? What am I hoping to get out of it? Because it's never good news. It's never, hey, rainbows and butterflies. It's never that. It's, so and so died, such and such exploded, politics, you know. There's nothing good on the news.
No.
It's just bad news. Like, because good news doesn't sell ads. It has to be bad news. It's all bad news. Why do you want more bad news? Don't we all have enough bad news in our own lives that we need to go find bad news throughout the whole world?
I don't think we have bad news in our lives.
I have less bad news than ever, but any bad news in my own life is more than enough. So I don't need to go find, what's happening. You pick a place.
There's a retrospect. What, right, is if everything is in your life is looked at something bad, right, or as an opportunity to uncover, I will say it, 10 minutes in, a pain body.
Yeah. Well, that's the way to look
Right.
at it.
If you're looking at the news and you're so attached and you can't let go, what's the pain body that is holding you there? What's the trauma?
Right.
What is the fear of not letting go?
Right. Don't. And I think the way you discover that is you don't watch it and you feel what comes up.
Or if you watch, no, or honestly, if you watch it, what is it that you're feeling? But at the same time, here's the thing: is if you're watching it and you're feeling something, chances are you're probably feeling whatever the scarcity tactic or whatever the scarcity message that the news is trying to propagate. So half of the time, the feeling that you're feeling is not even yours.
It's
You're just
programmed and manipulated.
Yeah, well, you're just like empathically or intuitively picking up this greater fear and you're tuning into a message that has that within it. And it's amplified by the fact that, millions or thousands of people are listening to that particular message. Insert whatever that
Yeah.
fear into this entity. As some people call it, like I think there's one guy who called it an egregore, that
Yeah.
every idea becomes its own entity.
Especially if it becomes popular and a whole lot of people.
Yeah, but any news is
Believe it or
popular
think it.
by the fact that
It's
it
just
is
watched by a lot of people.
broadcasted, nationwide, worldwide, BBC's broadcast worldwide.
Mhm. I didn't mean to get stuck on news, but where I was going was if you want one low-hanging fruit way to just sort of see what this perspective shift that we're talking about is, stop watching the news and you will feel it.
Yeah,
That's just
maybe
that's a
let's
trivial way to do it.
maybe let's lay out the perspective in general, right? So, or the journey itself. Like I don't know if we had an episode where we talked about the journey itself and where we are right now. I mean, I know we've talked about like little bits and pieces that come up, but I don't know if like
I don't think so.
yeah. And I don't know. Well, I guess whatever will come out will come out. But so yeah, the journey itself. Oh, you know what? I will just start. There you go. Maybe this is what it's meant to happen. I'll just start in 2017 when I got dragged into this kicking and screaming, and then I dragged you into it as you yesterday kindly worded it, kicking and screaming. So for some people, spiritual journey comes out of, I think a lot of people's spiritual journeys start out with some sort of traumatic event or illness or like deterioration of their being, right? And then because of that, you're almost like slapped into this complete reset of self, right? And I'm not saying it comes out of nowhere. Like I think for the most part, and I'm just trying to generalize. I mean, there's, billions of different versions of this interpretation. But for in most parts, is most people don't just wake up one day and go, "Oh, today's a good day to start," because there's
Right.
because today is just a random day, right? There has been this buildup of, let's say shit
Right.
that is on the whole wrap is maybe the unhappiness of your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then sooner or later, if you don't address the tiny little points of unhappiness, right, the little minor things, if you are just keep on ignoring them and pushing them away and pushing them away and pushing them away, sooner or later, most people work themselves into what some people refer to like the dark night of the soul, where just the universe slaps you in the face in the non-polite way.
Yeah.
And you basically at the bottom. You find yourself at the bottom.
Well, there's the hard bottom and there's the soft bottom. And the soft bottom is, oh, I don't feel so good. Oh, I feel this pressure. I need to do something. And the hard bottom is, oh, I woke up in the hospital being revived from an overdose. Or
whatever.
Or I lost my house and my marriage and there's all kinds of level of from catastrophic to mildly unpleasant.
Yeah.
That usually, unfortunately, is usually what it takes to get this started.
Is that the industry terms, low bottom, hard bottom, and soft bottom?
I've heard that before, yeah.
Okay.
Like, if you're, especially related to like addiction, because you can see how addiction could be something that's kind of bad, where you go, oh, wait a minute, I got a real problem. Or it gets, catastrophically bad.
Yeah.
And that's, some people, a soft bottom is enough. And some people, a hard bottom is what it takes.
Yeah. Do you think yours was a hard bottom?
Probably not.
Do you think it was a soft bottom?
I guess it probably could have been softer.
Do you think mine was a bottom?
See, I don't think yours was like that. Yours was hitting the bottom is almost being pushed into it, and you almost, from my perspective, felt pulled into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
Like I started climbing into the bottom.
Well,
like I started.
Yeah, I don't even know that there's a bottom in your case. You just like.
But sooner or later, when you start digging, you used to have to see the bottom before you go back up to the top.
Yeah.
But all by choice. I guess with me, it was all by choice.
Right. Yeah.
But like.
Yes.
Persuaded choice.
Yours was by choice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I guess it to some degree, everybody's is by choice.
Spiritually, yeah.
But how much of life circumstances are forced on you before that is the question.
No. Yeah. So 2017 for me starts the process of where I cognitively go, wait, something's ajar, right? And
when is a door not a door? When it is ajar.
Wow.
I'm sorry. I apologize to everybody. I can't hear the word ajar without thinking of that.
Yeah. And so I was confused enough about my ajarring that I, unbeknownst to self, basically started a spiritual journey. At the time, now, this is another thing, is at the time, when you start this process, there's no vocabulary that you have. Like, right, I still, like, this is a new concept to me that I don't know low bottom versus soft bottom, right? I say industry terms just because we happen to be in several industries, but there's these concepts that have been lived and experienced by thousands of people that people have started to identify and explain, which is what we're doing in this sense, just from our perspective. But to begin with, you don't have words for it, which is the hard part, right? When you enter into this place of being lost and you have no idea where to go, it is not like there's this like, oh, well, if you need plumbing repair, here's a step-by-step process of how to do that.
There's a YouTube video.
Yeah, there's a YouTube video, right? There's not that because it's so personalized. And the
Yeah.
only thing you can do is hear somebody else, in this case, this is why we're doing it, and talk about these in their personal brushstrokes. And
Yeah.
then you can derive your own
Similarities.
similarities,
Yeah.
or sentiment out of it, right?
Right. I mean, because we've both listened to a lot of people's experiences, and some of them are like, oh, that sounds kind of familiar. Oh, that was nothing like me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and it's nice to hear the perspective of other people, even if it is completely different from our own, just because I don't know, I find it fascinating.
Yeah. Well, no, but realistically, also, what I have come to find out is this is the way I experienced it, and this is the way I interpret it. But here's another interpretation of it, right? And
Mhm.
another, and another, and another.
Yeah.
And there's all these different interpretation of kind of really the exact same thing. And until you see the bigger picture, like sooner or later when you're on the spiritual journey, you will start to see the bigger picture. To begin with, it will almost looks like these little glimpses, right? And you don't understand the whole photo, but you see like these tiny little bitty pieces. And but I do think there's a benefit to that, because sooner or later those tiny pieces come together into this one.
Yeah. And I mean, and that kind of leads into like synchronicities that you're like, oh, wait a minute, this what it would be easier if I had a concrete example. But
In regard to like the synchronicity that happened to us that bring us into the journey?
not necessarily, but like things will come up in your life as you go along this journey
Yeah, yeah.
that then get echoed in other areas of your life.
Yeah.
You will see something or read something, and then later that day, the next day, a week later, you will see or read the exact same thing, and it starts happening beyond statistical probability.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, which, at some point in my, between 2017 and now, I wished it was different, but now I realize it's just poetically perfect. It would almost like I would receive an understanding of something on my end. Like I get it. I feel it. And then a little bit later through synchronicity, it would come my way as an explanation of something. So it's almost like as a backup of like, oh, all that stuff you just experienced and you were confused about for months or maybe years, and it was really, really hard to figure out where you ended up.
Here it is in a TV
Here,
show.
here it is with somebody else's story, and it's congealed into 20 seconds or 2 minutes for you, and you have just spent, I don't know, a month or two struggling through that, right? So, for me at least, the validation is always there after after some sort of cataclysm of self, where I'm shedding another layer, or I'm going through some sort of turmoil, or I'm releasing some trauma energy, right? And only then do I get like, oh yeah, all of that stuff you just went through, that's what it's called. And I'm like, oh,
I have a name for that.
yeah, right? Or like, yeah, this is perfectly normal and people can go through this, but here's a kind of somebody else's story on that. And so it is great to receive validation in some sense, right? I do still value validation just because the journey is difficult. And even though I've never had a mentor, like that validation is almost like reassurance on the universal spiritual level.
Yeah.
Right? That universe has your back, even though you're probably most of the time think you're wandering lost in the woods. The universe is right there with you.
Yeah.
And it has your back. And this is just the wandering lost in the woods part is part of the journey, but you're not alone.
Yeah.
I mean, it might seem like you are, but you're quite literally not.
Yeah. That said, if you're not seeing this reassurance, don't worry about it.
Yeah. No, but I think it just comes.
It will come.
A lot of times, to begin with, I think the reassurance does not come is not because it's not there, because you have your eyes closed to it.
Right.
You discount it, right?
Yeah.
You discount it as something else, like, oh, it's just a coincidence. Oh,
yeah, that's
just weird, but that doesn't make sense, so I'll just let it go. So to begin with, you pre-programmed from your previous
exactly
years not to see things for what they are, and you discount everything in your life.
Right.
And then it almost takes this mm, enough of them, or maybe hearing someone else to say the universe is literally designed with that type of guidance. And so anytime you are trying to discount it, pause and go, wait, why am I not letting this be my truth?
Right. I mean, I see not to go back to synchronicities, but I see those as that. I mean, what you just talked about, I would word that as a synchronicity. Oh, I've been struggling with this. Oh my gosh, here's a show that I just happened to see that completely describes it.
Yeah.
And I would say, like, write down these synchronicities, and you will be surprised.
Yeah. I don't.
Even the smallest ones. No,
I
I did
don't.
for a while, but then I'm like,
There's like too many.
there's too many.
But when you start paying,
I'll just appreciate them and smile at them and
yeah.
be grateful for them,
Yeah, yeah.
and
No,
that's
and I'm
let
still
them
in
go.
shock when they come. Considering how long you and I have been doing this, I guess it's not that long, but I'm still in shock of
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, just the universe is just magically aligned. And in one of my meditative sessions, this was years ago, I got a glimpse of the nuance of this complex universal existence and how we get these synchronicities, and the multidimensionality of them, meaning like the most minute things that are actually coming to us for very specific reasons that we would completely not even think in any way are related to the overall journey of us discovering ourselves, are actually part of there. And it's like this, I will use the word tapestry again because I think that's the word that is most applicable here. The tapestry is so detailed, and it's interwoven into the most minute, tiniest little details to where you're like, wait, what? You know, that toothpick laying there pointing that direction would be the most important thing ever. But it's just, everything is just perfect. It's just
Right.
perfectly lined up. And yeah, and they let me feel that. And it was just the most magnificent feeling to recognize how big that tapestry is and how interwoven we all are. You know, through like lifetimes and planes
Yeah.
and everything.
If you're open to, I mean, start expecting them. I mean, if you're
Yeah, but
be
no,
open.
not like
Not
chase them,
yeah,
right? Because
not
that's,
a chase. Not like you
or just be
or
open
be open to
to
it.
interpreting them as
Yeah,
something
maybe
that
expect
is,
is the wrong word, but
yeah,
be open to it and look for them.
yeah. The wrong thing to do, which is one of the pitfalls that I fell down into, is almost like always be looking for the next thing.
Yeah, what I don't mean is feel entitled to them. I don't mean that.
Oh no, I mean like, but always be expecting them, not through entitlement, but through hope. That's also a pitfall within itself, right? Sitting there hoping that synchronicity will come and will, you know, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right? So my thought process is just allow your life to flow as is. And if something does come that is a magical moment of synchronicity or just like a coincidence, you're like, oh, look, that's neat. Don't discount it. But at
Mhm.
the same time, don't go chasing them.
Right. I mean, I personally think there's a what is it saying that God helps those that help themselves. So it's like it's not necessarily sit back and wait for the lottery check to arrive at your door, but if you want, oh, I want more work in this area or that area, and I I have many times in the past few years thought or said I want more work in video production, and it comes. I
Mm.
mean, it's not lottery level money, but it comes.
Yeah. I know. I have instances
And
like
so
that.
it's like, oh wait, this is actually the type of work I'm looking for. It's not a huge job. It's not a blockbuster movie or anything, but this is, you know,
Yeah.
it comes in the weirdest of ways.
Yeah. I think we are primed for self discovery and self acknowledgement and self awakening just by the mere nature of us being here in this moment, in any moment, right? That is what we're being pulled to. Um, whether we know it or not, our higher self is guiding us into that environment, right? And so the process, but then the process is, um what did I want to say about that? The process is beautiful, but also complicated, right? And then you don't even understand everything that you will go through when you're starting it, right? So when I was starting it, I had no clue. Well, I guess I did not realize what I was starting was a spiritual awakening process. I had no clue, right? I was just being pulled towards, um I don't know, like, I I will say this. Mine started as a dream, right? It came in the dream form, like, not I have a dream, Martin Luther King style, but like it was a dream. And what it showed me was so shocking. And it struck me at the core of what I did not want this world to be. It was one of those moments where the dream was so profound and it felt like truth. I still, 2017, I still feel like it feels like truth, that it propelled me onto the first response of was, I have to do everything to keep this dream from coming true. And that is, to begin with, that is all I thought. I mean, I actually, it's all I thought probably for 2 years after the 2017, because I was like, I have no idea how to explain this. Things that got stimulated out of this dream are all encompassing, all overtaking. But I know this is like my destiny. This is my truth. And then I cannot deny that. And so, I mean, for the first 2 years, for sure, I'm like lost. And the only thing I'm doing is trying to somehow understand why I feel so passionate about this dream and this becoming my truth, and what I can possibly do not to have it be so. And so in the dream, what I realize is, if the dream is there as a prophecy of sorts, then what I can do is I can see myself as a figure in that dream. And then what skill set do I have in that dream that I do not have right now that is beneficial? Does that make sense?
Like to set your own path.
Well, eh, after I started to understand the dream as a trajectory, overall trajectory of humanity, um, well, maybe I should go ahead and say that the dream, it turned out to be, this is again pre my spiritual awakening. The dream was Plato, allegory of the cave, right? And so I did not know that I was dreaming of Plato's allegory of the cave when I was dreaming it. And so for those of you who are not familiar with it, my dream was slightly different than the allegory. So I will say what my dream is, and but not necessarily what the allegory is. But I think it's one and the same. In the dream, and I will exclude certain details. Um, but in the dream, uh, just a brushstroke, humanity is trapped in the cave because there's nowhere else to go. And I don't have the details of nowhere else to go. They're just trapped in a cave. And the entrance of the cave is behind them, which is the same concept as Plato's allegory. And the humans are sitting there without any hope, trapped in this cave. And I won't go into the details of why we're in the cave or all that jazz. But what I am experiencing is I am a healer. And I come to, and the cave is big, right? So there's this main area, but it goes deeper. And I come from the depth of the cave where I am. I don't know what I'm doing in the depth of the cave, but I'm here and I'm healing those that need the healing, who are trapped in the cave. And so, you know, brushstroke, end of humanity, apocalypse, and we're trapped with nowhere else to go.
Yeah. In the allegory of the cave, the story is that there are people trapped in a cave, and they're facing away from the opening. So they're looking at, let's say, a wall of the cave with the opening behind them.
That's how, mine was that way too.
And the let's say bad guys who have trapped these people in the cave are projecting shadows onto the wall.
Was it bad guys, or would they see their own reflection of
So-
is the shadow?
Oh wait, now I don't remember.
Yeah,
Either way,
there's no bad guys in the allegory.
Okay.
When they're sitting in the cave and the light is behind them, what they see projected onto the wall is their shadow.
Yeah. So their entire reality is this 2D shadow world, and that's all they see.
Yeah.
There is no knowledge of anything other than that.
Yes.
And then at some point, some brave soul manages to escape.
Mhm.
He steps out into the
Light.
into the real world, into the light, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, look at this! It's more than shadows. There's trees, there's rocks, there's birds. Everything's amazing. I have to go back and tell everybody, you all have been fooled. There is so much more than this."
Mhm.
And he goes back.
This is similar to Silo.
It is yes.
Yeah,
It
there's
is.
a show called Silo on Apple.
Yeah, Apple TV.
Apple.
Yeah. Yes, it is. There's only like a handful of stories, and everything just picks one of those stories and tells it.
Yeah, but no, I think it is an important story to tell right now.
Yeah. And so the guy comes back to the cave and tries to convince everybody, "Hey guys, let's go outside." And they're like, this threatens everything that they know.
Yeah, which is the allegory is there, and my dream is there to showcase that you will fight tooth and nail to protect your status quo.
Yes.
Because that is the only thing you know.
Yes. And I don't know if they end up killing him or if he just runs away and says, "Forget these people."
No,
But-
I think
But they don't want to leave.
they don't want to leave
don't
because to
want to
them
leave.
this is safety.
This is safety.
The
This is
darkness of the
everything-
shadow
this
is a
everything
safety.
that they know. This is their reality. It's always been this way. I don't want something different. Different is scary. I want this. When, from the guy who escaped perspective, you guys are idiots. Look, come on out.
There's no
The weather's nice.
And I think the cave does not tell the story of escaping. You can just walk out.
Yeah.
There's actually no complex way. There
Maybe that's what it was. Maybe there is
it's just the desire to leave the cave and see the light.
You have to want to
It's just
change.
simply walking out. And so this is pre my understanding of a spiritual awakening process. This is pre my knowledge of Plato's allegory of the cave. It took me until 2020 to even hear one kind soul goes, "Wait, your dream is the Plato's allegory of the cave." And I'm like, "Wait, what?" And so then right 3 years it took me to recognize that what I'm living.
I remember when you said that, I'm like, "Oh, that's right. I remember studying that."
And I never, right? And so through that, and obviously.
It might have been an ethics class.
Oh, really?
It might have been.
Oh, I don't know. I mean,
I've heard about this before.
And
I never connected it.
And for all I know, I heard about it. But to me, right? You could hear of something, but unless you live it and it becomes your truth, that's almost a different story altogether.
Yeah, I mean, there's a special part of the brain that can make connections, and I had all the pieces, and I never made that connection until someone else said it. And I'm like, "Oh, that makes sense."
Yeah, but to me, it was
same with Silo. It's like literally a cave.
Yeah.
Concrete cave. I did not connect that.
Yeah. And so because I spent 3 years struggling with understanding why am I married to the story so much? And then all the details and the nuances thereof and all the characters that are in it, right? It was so all consuming, but yet it was in no way not my truth, right? Like, I know it sounds silly, but you could say, well, this is a dream. Just what's the heck? Like you have thousands of dreams, right? What? No, it was so profound that it quite literally overtook my system. It overrode my system. And with that override, it literally awakened within me what I can say now, what people classify as psychic powers or intuitive powers or spiritual powers or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And so so it was basically this one moment in my life where I have a dream. It's so profound. I go into some sort of shock where this is my truth now. And then all of these things start flowing out of it. I get abilities. And now, honestly, I probably had all of them before, but they were so dormant because I was so much in my 3-dimensional space of being that I would never even allow things to flow. But the second you allow something else to flow that
Yeah.
is in fact your truth, but you're just denying it, then everything else starts to flow with it.
Right. Then you can trust it.
Well, no, in my case, it was just shock, right? And so things are just flowing, and there's just basically like a hose, open hose, and just things are coming. And so it was extremely confusing.
What's interesting is that we just watched a show, and two people, it's Robert Edward Grant's interview with Matthias DeStefano. Both of them describe it exactly like that. That it's like all of a sudden, it's basically a fire hose.
Yeah. Well, no, they describe, yes. And so with them, I guess they're in the same position that I became. Is with me, it started as channeling. Right. It was. It just started coming, and we traveled when the channeling just started to coming, and it was the most profound thing possible. But at the time, I don't even know it's called channeling. I just have this random stuff come into my head, and I don't know where it's coming from, right? And so there's a lot of confusion. Like, right, it took years to even know that there's a word for it, and it's called channeling.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and so what I wanted to say is the spiritual journey, that when this started my spiritual journey, because it was so confusing, but at the same time so overtaking it, when if it overtakes your being, and now this is, you don't have a definition of self, right? My old definition could no longer exist, and now I had to like basically go through the woods going, what the heck am I now, and what is happening to me? The only thing that I could draw out of it was, well, in my dream, I have these abilities that it seemed to be coming on board in my real life.
Yeah.
So the only thing I could do at the time was to go, how about I explore what those abilities are?
Yeah.
I'm healing people. I seem to be cognitively aware of what's happening when no one else is. Let me just run with that. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the way I compared it is, what was the movie? Where the aliens come.
Alien.
No.
Independence Day.
What? No.
Oh.
Arrival. Arrival.
Okay.
It has who does it have in it? Jeremy Renner and what's the lady's name? I will never remember the lady's name. It's not in my cloud of operational mind right now.
Poster.
Poster, yeah. And so after I implemented that process for myself, I realized, oh wait, that is literally what she does in the
spoiler alert.
Oh, sure, yeah, maybe I shouldn't. But that is literally what she does in the movie, is that she takes a concept that I don't remember the details now, but basically in my case, I take a concept that I see that I need to have in the future, and I go, okay, I have no idea what's happening, and I don't have a road or a recipe or a directions to anything. But the only thing I know is I have something there that I don't have right now, and it looks like I will need it. Let me go and get it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe.
It-
That makes sense. I don't remember in the context of the movie, but
the movie had other plot elements to it, to where like she saw into the future, blah 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 blah.
now you're just spoiling it for the fun of it.
No, it's a good movie. It's a completely underrated movie, but I
Yeah.
think it's a good movie if you are watching it and then you can profoundly get something out of it, right?
Yeah.
Like that spiritual going,
There's
oh my God, this is like literally what I did,
there are a
right?
lot of movies that are on different levels, multiple levels.
Yeah. And with me, that movie registered in reverse, exactly how I registered my dream in reverse. I interpreted it as something that will be happening, and I still think it will be happening. I don't know what the outcome of it. I don't know what the net result of it. I can kind of see all the players in it and how it'll come about. I don't think I can change it. I can lessen the impact, but in the end, the only thing that I can do is I can actually start healing in reverse, post event, or post the whatever it is that causes us to be in the cave. And it's actually, I would not say it needs to be interpreted necessarily as a physical cave.
Right.
Because in the allegory is the cave of our mind,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And there needs to be a process of allowing people to leave that cave. And so there's just certain people that will be able to help with that. I mean, honestly, the whole point of the podcast is just that. So we're kind of already doing that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. So once you start the process, obviously nobody process starts at like mine, probably, or not exactly like mine, right? But if you hit that bottom and then you're starting the process because there's no other way out of it,
Mhm.
right?
You're just compelled to do it.
You're compelled to do it. But I was compelled to do it just in a different way. With it, my process from that point on is still the same. You're starting to unravel all the presets and all the notions of self that you have placed upon you as the definition of I.
Yeah. You reevaluate. I mean, you reevaluate everything that you know, or rather thought you knew, all the assumptions baked into your life. Everything's up for evaluation.
Yeah. But just at the right time. Like not like, oh, I'm gonna sit there and just like write everything for evaluation. No, like organically. It is an
Yeah, it
organic
does. It
process.
does. Yeah, develop over time and come. Something will come up and something else will come up, and it just works its way in.
Yeah. But that organic flow, right? I guess I would say one of my pitfalls was because I struggle with relinquishing of control. Not because I want control, because control to me, especially in the past, offered safety. So because I struggled with safety in the past, the process of spiritual awakening at some process or some point did it wasn't as natural as it should have been, because I felt so vulnerable during it, that my extension into feeling of unsafety and feeling vulnerable, right? Which is quite literally what I needed to do in order to reach the point of right now, at least. That was the biggest struggle.
Hmm.
It's kind of like they tied themselves together. That I because safety was an issue on the general scope of things. In order for you to allow spiritual process to flow and develop, by definition, um, has within it surrender. Not the thoughtful process of surrender, but the surrender itself.
Yeah. Yeah. I know what you mean.
Yeah. And so whenever I relinquished, or at whatever level I relinquished the feeling of unsafety, I recognized that that is what was driving all the actions or inactions or the blocks behind all of it, was the fact that I couldn't surrender at the core level of my being. Because in order for you to allow things to just come through and happen, when I say surrender, that doesn't even do justice on the level at which you have to surrender.
Yeah. There's a trust in the universe. No?
Like that does, no, that's right, right? Like I could say all these words. There's trust in the universe. There's
Yeah.
the letting go. There's surrender. But to me, none of that does justice, considering how it feels inside of me to actually surrender.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Right. So the true surrender just has this almost deterioration type of effect. Like where your entire being, and I'm going to scare some people off here, but your entire being needs to be dissolved. Maybe this is what the hitting the bottom is. I don't know. But what I spoke about in my last podcast with the Oracle of Delphi,
Mhm.
that feeling that was dissolved within me of like that innate identification of I as unsafety, it comes from there. Like it comes from that deep. Now, for me, it was unsafety. I don't know what it is for you. That's what my specific flavor of Kool-Aid was.
Yeah, my experience was a bit different than that.
Do you want to talk about your experience?
Sure. I guess it was Halloween 2020. It was COVID Halloween. First COVID Halloween.
Wait, have we talked about this or not? Oh, we talked about her alcoholism during it.
That's right.
But we did not talk about this portion of
No,
it.
yeah, because we took Sober October that year, which I don't even know why, but we did.
Yeah.
Guess it needed to happen. So maybe we did mention it. So we're out, with the kids on Halloween, and there's this lady with the dog, and this dog is a bit high strung.
It was just full of anxiety.
Yeah, very anxious dog. And Tanya offers to the lady to do some energy healing on this dog to alleviate its anxiety.
Do you even say it that way?
No, you probably worded it even
yeah, like
safer than that.
Yeah, I didn't.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
And I guess honestly, I was just embarrassed that I'm. It's now it's like embarrassing to even say that I was embarrassed about it, but
No, but
that's how I felt. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't even, this is too much. Here's some, and I'm trying to think, what is it that I was afraid of? What I mean, what other people thought is the answer to that.
Yeah.
But concretely, I don't know, but it is just this other people's opinions of me and me through you was so important that I literally physically distanced myself away from you during this to not be, I guess, seen, involved in this.
Like you actually stepped away from me?
I actually like walked ahead to get closer to the kids,
Yeah.
but it wasn't to get closer to the kids. It was to get further from you.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
Right. And I'm just incredibly uncomfortable at the time.
Because I'm embarrassing you.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't know if it's you're embarrassing me or I am embarrassed myself. I'm not sure which one it is.
Yeah, and to me that was just really hurtful.
I imagine. Uh, but all this stuff. I mean, I know your thing started in 2017, but it didn't.
Well, I wasn't out. I say
That
out,
yeah.
right? I wasn't out
So it's
until
that
2020.
right. So you weren't either. You had I don't know. Had you been out yet?
Yeah, right. Like in the spiritual world, like the circles that I run with, some people use word out like you're basically in the closet hiding about the fact that you're on a journey of spiritual development and because you're afraid the world is not going to accept you for who you are, which is the same thing you're going through,
Yes.
except I'm in 2017 going through what I'm going to, and I say it very lightly, but it's extremely difficult, right? Because I lost myself. Because all of a sudden I'm somebody else. I'm something else, and I'm experiencing something else. And so when you cannot define yourself, you feel lost. And so COVID provided that pause time, and honestly, it was perfect because that pause time allowed me to go like, well, obviously I'm not the only person. There's books that I'm reading now that, the book that you already flashed, the uh, beg- psychics, beginner psychics or
Mhm.
whatever, right? I'm starting to read books and I'm like, I'm obviously not the only person that's experiencing this. This is something that is normal, right?
Mhm.
Again, I'm not defining this as a spiritual awakening. I just have no clue, but I feel like I'm going crazy and I'm trying not to define myself as crazy.
Yeah.
So COVID offered me an opportunity to start to explore that more because I started reading books and then I joined online groups
We were watching Gaia.
and we started watching Gaia, which, I would highly recommend for those who are on this path, regardless of where you are.
Mhm.
Um, and so it allows you to have this space that is your truth. And at that time, it normalizes it and it makes it okay for you to feel this, right? Because from 2017 until 2020, I'm like trying not to feel it, but at the same time, I'm like actively denying this as truth. I'm like, go away, go away, go
Yeah.
away. Now, I'm not
Yeah.
actually saying that I'm saying that, but because I'm not open to it, it is just fighting me. Like it's quite literally yanking me towards something, and I am just kicking and screaming against it.
Yeah.
And
So
so at some point, I took enough spiritual workshops and classes to where I'm like, oh, this is for real. Like I could read things with my mind and I can energy transfer and I can heal people and I can electrically zap people and I can do all
yeah.
this stuff. And this is not pretend. And so the reason why I said that to that lady is because at that point I'm like, I know I can help that dog.
Yeah. Yeah. But like you had just said, it's like you're no longer the same person. And so that was the embodiment of, oh, she's no longer the same person to me. And it sent me on this like, I don't know what to do with this.
Well, I'm no longer the same person, but with you, your pain body is outward presentation of you being as this compiled perfect human being into the world
Yeah, well
because that's your pain body.
Yes, that
And so
too.
me not being the same person is not just that. It's me now being a crazy person
Yeah.
because you define this as crazy,
Right.
as psychotic, as witchcraft, as
Sure.
juju, whatever
Sure.
all the words,
Yeah.
right?
And
Because
so
because you define this for 20 years prior to that of us being together. Anytime I would bring up anything that was slightly on the fringe, right?
mhm,
Now it's just like, oh, that's just the truth
yeah.
of humanity. But back then it was slightly on the fringe. I would like, oh, my parents went to a psychic, or like, oh, there's ghost, or like, oh, I don't know what else we ever talked
Yeah,
about.
but anything. I would just dismiss it
You
outright.
would dismiss it, and then we would inevitably get into some sort of argument if I actually cared. If I actually cared to defend my point and present you with all the evidence why this is not false, you would inevitably start arguing with me. Now were terrible because you had no points of justification other than like, well, where is this written scientifically? Show me scientific
Where's that ever been
representation.
written?
Yeah, right. And so you and I would very quickly get into that argument. So
Yeah.
for 20 years, I have basically knew that was my truth. I believed in all of it. I knew it to be real, but I just basically chose not to be in that space because it provided discord between you and I. And so I just didn't want to be in discord in our relationship.
Yeah.
And so in 2020, I went, this is just me.
Yeah. And I guess we both started doing those online.
Yeah, and you were already doing them. So
Yeah. Well, let me go. So I was coming around to this idea myself slowly. I was coming around to it, but I wasn't ready on Halloween to be out myself and not even to be next to someone who was out.
I wasn't out that much.
Right.
I was
But
just out enough to suggest this because I saw a dog struggling.
I was uncomfortable and I wasn't ready.
Okay.
And so a couple days later, like we get into a fight and I just get in the car and drive.
No, we get into the fight because at that point you are acting embarrassed and put off about me being me.
Yes.
So the reason why we get into a fight is because you are quite literally denying the essence of I.
Yeah.
And you're embarrassed.
Yeah.
And then you basically are trying to get me to be something else.
Right.
So,
so
that is a very important part.
Yes.
Right. So there will be people in your life, for those who are on the spiritual journey, who will see you do something different. And maybe to them, this is crazy. Maybe to them, this is embarrassing. And maybe to them, this is new. And to them, this will be a threat to the status quo of their comfort.
It was a very big threat to the status quo of my comfort.
Right. And so to them is, if you, in this case, but to a listener, if you continue to awaken or to acknowledge yourself or to be on this journey that is completely different from everything that you have been experiencing before, right? Or you will do things differently. You will say something differently. Your hobbies will change. This will be a tremendous threat to your family circle, your friend circle, to where they will no longer want you to be that way.
Right. They'll fight you.
They
may not accept you. You might lose friends. You might lose you might break up your marriage. It might.
Yeah, in our case, this is where this was going.
Right.
I basically said, I cannot live in self-denial anymore. This is what my truth is. And at the time I didn't even know, but ... and it's gonna get crazier. Right?
Right. I guess a part of me thought and or hoped that this was like a phase and that things would go back to how they used to be. I know I thought that or hoped for that.
Yeah.
But we had that fight and I'm like, okay, I'm going to go on what I now call like the long drive of the soul. And I drove, I don't know, like 50 miles north, east-ish, looking for answers, right? I'm like,
Were you looking for answers?
I was like,
or were you just driving? Because I know driving is a thing that detoxifies you.
Yeah, I mean, I started just driving, but I'm like, maybe I'll get a sign, maybe I'll get a message, maybe I'll, and I come across some crazy abandoned thing, and I come across some Buddhist temple out in the middle of nowhere. What's that doing there?
Yeah, but the fact that it's a Buddhist temple in the middle of the woods.
Yeah, right.
This is the middle of the woods.
This is not in a city. This is in the middle of nowhere. And there's a Buddhist temple up there. What?
Yeah. Where we had our ayahuasca ceremony, some of the people who came there, they're like, oh, this is the boonies.
Right.
So this was...
And I think that's further than that.
It was further than that. So this is... Buddhist temples do not exist in the boonies, I would say. But this one does.
It was weird.
I mean, but it was literally... It
was what it needed to be.
Yeah.
And I ended up just parking on the side of the road and meditating at one point. And out of that, I have never been clearer about what I want. I mean, I went into this going, the out of the realm of possibilities, going back to how things used to be. Well, that's not really going to happen. I can, fake it and accept it and go along with that, but I'm not going to be happy, and you're going to know, so that's not really an option. So
was there a fear that I was going to know because I would know?
Yeah. And so it's either I'm all in or I'm all out. Those are my only options.
Yeah, no, but that's fine. And some people
Right.
decide to be all out.
Right. And I'm like, you know, I, you know, I don't know. I don't know. I didn't know. I didn't even know what I wanted. Um, but out of that, I, gosh, I just remember the exactly where I was when I had this incredible clarity of of my, I don't know if role is the right word for this, in this. And it was just, it was so clear. And I drove home with the most focus I've ever had in my entire life. Just razor sharp focus. I just couldn't wait to get home. I took the slow road up there, and I'm like, interstate drive home. I'm driving, too
Speed
fast.
limit.
I'm driving exactly the speed limit. Um, and yeah, I don't. It was exactly what I needed.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, and so that was my origin story to my spiritual path. Was I fought it and fought it and fought it until that moment, and then it's like, okay, no, this is the way.
You fought it. You fought it for yourself.
I mean, I fought it because I'm in the cave and I'm looking at the shadows and I'm going, this is nice and comfortable, and someone's saying that it's nice over there, but nope, I'm happy right here. I mean, it's exactly that.
Yeah.
I'm happy with the status quo. I'm happy with how my life has always been. Here's someone else trying to shake things up, trying to tell me that there's a whole nother world out there. And I'm like, but these shadows are really nice. I don't want to go over there. If I go over there, it'll be new and scary. And all my shadow friends won't like, I don't know. I'm
No,
trying to
that's what.
stretch,
No, but
stretch
that's it,
the
right?
metaphor.
Everybody
right?
else is here with me.
Everybody
Look, I
else is
can
here with
see
me.
everybody else is here. So
Right.
this is the way
Right.
it is. This is
I
safety.
don't want to
This
be
is
one
normal.
of those crazy guys who goes out into the real world.
It
Real
comes
world's in
back,
here.
and gets rejected.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So within this built-in step forward into the decision of yourself being you is a huge block of fear and scarcity and
Self-esteem too.
self-esteem, where guess what? The majority of the people don't do this. This is not considered normal. This is
Right.
considered witchcraft. This is considered juju or whatever other words you want to use for it. And so, and then I will be rejected if I believe it. And so most of the people, I would say everybody, actually feels this to some extent in their life, but will reason themselves out of this being their truth, of this being in any way valid, and will in turn choose the masses or the opinions of the masses, really to choose the shadow of the cave to remain their truth, because that's comfort and it's all they ever known.
Right. And yes, 100%. And I was right there. Despite, I have heard voices my entire life.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. There you go.
So now now we can call that channeling, but I just thought I thought I was a little bit crazy. I really did. For my entire life, if I sit there and quiet my mind, I can hear voices, and they're different voices. Some have accents, some don't, male, female. Who knows who I'm going to get today? But they all have about the same message.
Same frequency.
Same frequency, yeah.
Yeah. It's just in your case,
They personify themselves in a way to basically focus on a part of a message.
to tailor the message to the best way you'll be able to register it.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like a cast. It's a casting director who is, this is who's going to give the message today. But it's all the same message.
Yeah. So this is slightly to the side of the topic, but maybe this is a good time to say it. So for those people that have spirit guides, right? There's a lot of people who have spirit guides. And then some of them have like groups of spirit guides, and they have this one for their shamanic work, and they have this one for their card reading, and they have this one for as their animal guide, and they have this one as their whatever, right? What that is personification of one message of the essence.
Right.
But then you are able to connect into it with your third eye or with the energetic center better if you assigned a structure or a role or
Yeah.
an accent
It helps our 3D human mind
to connect.
better connect, better understand, better relate,
Mm-hmm.
because it's for me, other people, I don't know.
Yeah, no, a lot of people do this.
A lot of people are convinced that they're different entities.
Yeah.
Maybe they are. I don't know. For me, it's one that just has like a different facet.
Mm-hmm.
And I've also seen things my whole life. Like I can close my eyes and see things to some degree. So I have, even though I have this, 40-year history of that, I would reject all that because I'm an engineer. I'm a sciencey person. Ah, look at me. I talk like this, apparently.
I'm an engineer from the 20s.
I'm an old-timey radio host.
Do you think that made it more
Right?
difficult?
Yeah, I think it made it more difficult because I so identified with science and logic and reason, which precluded this whole other thing. So I would just deny all of that. My own personal experience, I would just deny that or write that off as, whatever, neurons doing what neurons do in the brain, or there was no explanation for it.
Yeah.
But I would reject it. I didn't accept it. That was a part of me that I had rejected my whole life. I guess I didn't reject it when I was young, but eventually, you turn, adolescent or something, and it's like, oh, okay, nobody else seems to be talking about voices in their head. Maybe I shouldn't either. Nobody else sees things. And it's like, where do you think music comes from? That's where it comes from. Where does all the great poetry and all the great literature and all the great everything, where does it come from?
Discoveries, all scientific discovery.
This is where it all comes from.
Mm-hmm.
It's a download, and some people get it as words, some people get it as feelings, some people get it as images, some people get it as, I don't know, smells, maybe, I don't know. So, yeah. Parked on the side of the road was that point where I'm like, oh, okay. It just all clicked. Just all clicked.
Yeah, that was, I think for you, that was just the point where you realized, okay, I'm there. I'm not rejecting my wife. And it turns out that I'm right there with her.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm
with
not
her
rejecting
meaning
my wife,
like,
and I'm not rejecting myself anymore.
yeah. Do you feel like it was both like decision to not reject me, but also decision to accept yourself?
Yeah, very much. Very much. It was yeah, exactly that.
Yeah. But maybe
It was really more, I'm this way. What am I, what's even the argument here? I'm this way. What am I trying to push you back for if I'm already this way? It was so clear that it's like the opposite side just didn't even make sense anymore.
well, but through the denial of me being the way I am, it was actually your internal fight to deny you for being the way you are.
That's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
And I realized that looking at the fall trees, bare trees, in November of 2020 on the side of the road.
Wait, so we're 3 years into that now?
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember what day it was, but
Yeah, it was probably, it was right past Halloween. We're at the end of November right now. So probably like 3 years and a month.
maybe
A little less than a month.
Yeah, I'm sure I have the date written down somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the archives.
Yeah. Right. It's like it is a choice to begin with. It almost becomes a choice into how long are you going to spend denying to yourself your own truth?
Right. I mean, I think that half the goal of the drive was to pick a side. I needed to pick a side because I was living halfway in the middle. I'm like, well, I kind of see myself doing this, but at the same time, I kind of don't want anybody else to see me doing this. And it was like I was waffling between the two, and I wasn't committed on either side
Out of fear.
out of fear. Yeah, and it was fear of the judgment of others. 100%.
Yeah. But for you, the epitome of your existence rests on approval
Yeah,
by others.
yeah.
Like
I
your
mean, that's
largest
that.
pain body is just that.
I mean, that was yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Other people's opinions, your opinion, and the opinion of the random person I walk by in the grocery store. They all mattered.
Yeah. But in this case,
Which is just like
my
I can't
opinion was
even
all not great because you're rejecting me for me. Do you know what
right.
I mean?
Yeah, but it's just it boggles my mind now. Getting back to the original, we can come back to this one, but getting back to the original, what's different now from back then is how little I care about anybody else's opinion of basically anything. Maybe I still do here and there, but it's worlds apart.
Yeah. Not because you can logic it out.
And it has nothing to do with lodging it out. What difference does it make? I mean, I guess maybe that is lodging it out. What difference does it make? Why would I change myself in order to what? Impress or make them think so? What could matter less than what some random person at the grocery store thinks?
Yeah, but that's logicking it out. Do you think you have let go of it from the essence of your core?
I do, but I don't know how to explain that. I don't know how to
Um,
put that into words.
yeah, so right, you can have someone say something to you and then you can then spend time logicking it out like, "Oh, well, it's just one person, their opinion doesn't matter," or like, "Oh, they don't know what I'm talking about, they don't know the details."
Yeah,
And you can logic your way into making yourself feel better about it.
yeah,
But there's this different aspect of this surrender
yeah,
where somebody else's words coming to you, flowing at you, no longer mean what you would have perceived them to be prior to
yes,
this letting go
yes,
surrender
yes,
process.
that.
And now you can look at them for what they are and you can kind of look at them from this overarching standpoint, over the overlook standpoint of like, oh, there's a lot here, right? And you can see them one from
A lot here in their where they're coming from,
where
their
they're
pain
coming.
body, and
Yeah, so
yes,
you
yeah,
can
yeah, yeah.
see them from where they're coming
Yes,
from
yes,
their pain body, which is, like Buddhist practices would call this compassion, right? You can see the compassion and the fact that they have to express this feeling towards you because they don't recognize what it actually is bringing up, the turmoil within themselves that causes them to spew this out.
I just had the dream last night or the night before where the queen was upset about something or other, and oh, the chandeliers and not being listened to or something. And in the dream, I turned to you and I'm like, it's not really about the chandeliers or that. It's some deeper pain body
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, right.
I'm even having this in my dream. Yes, I mean, it is not just logicking it out. It's harder for me to explain the other thing, but it is just it just doesn't matter.
Not only does it not matter, but I think for me, there's two aspects there. If you step back enough, right? If you're in that overlook surrender standpoint and you have processed this information and this is where we are right now. And so this is sooner or later, spiritual awakening does take you there. There's the standpoint of one, you can see how your old self would have reacted to this in the past. All the points of trauma or pain or dissatisfaction that it would have brought up within you. And then you can see those points within you. I can actually feel them, like where they would have been stirred. And I noticed myself not being stirred in the exact same energetic way.
Yes. I went through that. I went through this. I mean, not just with that, but with several things. Oh my gosh, this is the situation where I would have felt uncomfortable, been embarrassed, you name it.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that interesting that I'm not?
Yeah.
And now it's not even that. It's just like.
But it could be that. You can still be in that overlooked standpoint, not be affected by it.
I can still go back and do that, but it was like it was almost like there's a button or a trigger that would, in the olden days, okay, this is what would embarrass me. And then later it's like, oh, look at that. This is the trigger that would embarrass me. And I'm not getting embarrassed. Isn't that interesting? And now it's like, there's just no button.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But that middle part of, oh, isn't that neat? Is
Mm-hmm.
a really neat place to be. Because it's like, I mean, that's what really feels like progress. Is like, oh my gosh, this stark comparison, this stark difference between I know how I would have felt, and yet I don't feel that way now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's really good to go through those.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of growth and development that happens in that awareness, right? And where you're like, oh, this where it would have been, but look where it's not.
Yeah.
And then you can start to know how it feels, and start to apply that knowing to other things.
Yes, yeah. There's like you said, there's something. It's usually there's a spot in your body that gets a tingle or a tense or
with me it's
something.
the tightening.
Tightening, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a real good way to physically feel the change.
Yeah, no, but the key there is to know how that change feels like, and then recognize that this is for this aspect in this version of myself feeling about this, but that is exactly how change feels like for other things. Because there's bajillion of other things that are still triggers, are still pain bodies to you, where you go, oh look, I'm not triggered for that thing anymore. But the next time you're triggered for something else, the trigger is not dissimilar as far as energetic interpretation, physical interpretation of your body.
It may not be the same tightening in the same spot, but there's
energetic shift.
It will be in the same ballpark.
Yeah, the energetic shift is what you will feel. You will feel yourself dropping down into a lower frequency vibrational state. And then basically how it presents on your physical form is tightening or discomfort or twitch, or, some people it's literally like headaches or back pains that night. And the next morning you wake up and you're like, oh, I slept on it wrong. But, in fact it was just some trigger that you didn't process. You didn't allow it to flow. And then that is your sign that there's something there.
Yeah.
And so when you start to, where we are is, I'm not saying we have let go of all of them, because I know there's still some.
There's more. And even when we started this podcast, I was still like, uncomfortable about talking about some things. So it's not.
You started this podcast 11 episodes ago?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought you meant like this, like an hour ago.
Oh, let's see how fast progress. No. Yeah. So it's not. I'm not trying to say, oh, look at me, I'm all perfect and done. But it's so much better.
No, I just wanted my goal was to show a snapshot of where somebody might be at one point of retrospect, right? Where you could be on this journey, right?
Yeah.
And then obviously, as we continue to record, we will be able to look back at this moment and go, okay, well, we still held this.
Look
and
how
this
far we had to go.
Yeah. No, and that's fine.
Yeah, no,
Because
yeah.
there's this surrender into going, this is a
It's a
journey.
journey. It's,
And it's okay to partake in this journey and not know where you are. But then at the same time recognize the progress that you have made.
Yeah.
Right. I can look back and go, oh my gosh,
right,
that was a lot.
right. But in that, and the using people's other people's opinions of you as just an easy example, it's like this weight is just off of your shoulders. It's like, oh my
Mhm.
gosh, I did not fully appreciate how much that was weighing me down at all. How much that was holding me back from being myself.
Mhm.
And so there's a whole lot of energy that goes into pretending to be someone else to some degree
Mhm.
for your entire life.
Mhm.
Uh, and that's a lot of energy. And when you don't have to do that, that frees it up for, it doesn't matter what, you can take up a new hobby. You can just have extra energy for your day. It's,
Yeah, and with me, it was basically trying to fight the unsafety, and that took up
right.
all of my
I
energy.
mean, I had a lot of control also. I probably still do, but
Well, no,
that wasn't the one
yeah,
that's just glaringly obvious to
yeah,
me.
to me, the control was only there to offset the fact that I was feeling unsafe. The only reason for control is to prevent what
Right.
is trying to hold back, which is I'm unsafe.
Yeah. And I guess, if you were to go down another level for, other people's opinions, it is an unsafety thing, right? Probably like some sort of tribal. If you're not part of the tribe, then you're alone and unsafe and dying alone. At some level, it all probably comes down to safety and survival. But to me, moving it up to the level of social acceptance and other people's opinions. Right now, it's like I think when I was in school, high school, college, right? It's like, oh, I've got to get, to some degree. It's like I've got to get everybody to like me, which everybody's not going to like you. Name one person that everybody likes.
That was your goal?
Um, yeah, to some degree,
Oh wow,
to
it's
get
like
right,
by default unachievable.
right. I mean, there are probably people who don't like Mother Teresa. I imagine, right?
Prob-
Maybe,
Yeah,
or Gandhi. But Gandhi was really unpopular. I didn't realize that.
yeah. Well, he was shot for his opinions, so yeah, I guess there's people
Yeah,
who
I
don't
mean,
like him.
like, didn't the CIA have a file looking into him or something for subversive actions? Or I don't remember.
I mean, he was killed because people didn't
Uh,
like him.
So nobody will have everybody like them. Fact. So so don't bother trying to do that. Um, but at some point, I realized, why am I trying to get people who I don't like to like me? Why am I changing who I am to get people who I don't even like, or best case, I'm indifferent about, to like me back? Do you like everybody? No. Why do you think everybody's gonna like you? It doesn't make sense. Well, I know that's a logicking it out thing, but that was a big thing. Don't try to get, certainly don't try to get people who you don't like. Don't spend effort changing yourself to get people who you don't like to like you. What if it's your boss?
No, but
What if it's
I
your wife? Maybe you shouldn't be married if you don't like them. Uh,
yeah, I think. Do you think for you the struggle? Do you think there was another level of struggle whenever I decided to just be me. And that,
Well, it made it glaringly obvious that I'm not being myself. Oh, here you are. You have finally shed this, you know, costume of pretending to be anything that you weren't, which I don't think you did to the extent that I did in the first place. But you were, basically out there waving the flag of, look, I'm me at on Halloween. And I'm like, how can she do that? I can't even do that.
yeah, what I'm saying, is there another dimension there of me being me and you now not accepting me? Then by default, I don't like you.
I'm probably.
Right.
I'm probably.
So so not trying to diminish your process of self-determination, but the part of the factor that went into factoring what is it that you're going to do with your life and what is it that you're going to accept and not accept at that time also held the pain body of, oh, guess what? I cannot stay with Tanya unless I accept this, which is basically accept her. Do you know what I
Right.
mean?
Right. But I mean, yeah.
I hope you were cognitive of that.
No,
I
I
don't
was
know.
very cognitive of that because I was like, the easy thing is to try to fake it. But yeah, I was cognitive enough to realize that that is not a good idea and not sustainable, and it wouldn't last long at all, and it would just be miserable for me. I would be miserable doing that.
That would be a pretty bad decision there for
Yeah,
anyone to
right,
take,
right,
to try to fake it into something that you are at the core don't
right. Which
vibrating
is
into.
which is just doubling up on costumes,
Mhm.
right?
It's like not even it's like not even staying stationary, going backwards.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm like, while that mm, mentally sounds like the easiest thing to do, it's absolutely not. It's just doubling down on, no, I'm gonna double down on this cave,
Mhm.
and I'm trying to work work the analogies together. Say, oh yeah, outside's all nice and good, but I'm really staying in the cave.
No, it's like the analogy there would be like, "Oh, yeah, I believe you that there's light out there." But in your head, you're like, "Oh, she's a fool." Right?
Why can't you see how nice this cave is?
Right.
It's
Yeah.
so cozy.
That cave is nice. And so yeah, so that is how it looks like. And that's how, and this is going to be hard to hear, but if if there are those people who are not on this journey yet.
Yeah, yeah. No, if that Halloween had happened 5 years before, 10 years before, 15 years before, I don't know.
No,
I
but you were ready, right? Everything came at the time when you were ready, or at least were ready enough, right?
ready
I'm not
right.
saying once you maybe
I
clarify this. Once you made that decision, it's not like, oh yeah, everything is hunky dory.
Oh no, it
That's when
was
the shit
yeah,
starts.
that's when it yeah, that's the beginning of it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like it's been smooth sailing since then, but it's been in the right direction.
It's more honest
Yeah. It's
with
yeah.
yourself.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, no, there was very, very real possibility that, we just weren't gonna work out because of this. If that had happened at a different time, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I already was, maybe not completely ready to begin to accept myself. I certainly wasn't 5 years before that. 10, 15. Oh my gosh, no way.
Yeah. But to say that, I think energetically, this is looking at it from the higher perspective. Earth wasn't in a position where that type of experience
That's true.
could be facilitated for everyone, or even majority of the people, or even the 20% of the people.
Yeah, I mean, that's
right?
true.
So the frequency of Earth shifted to allow this process to come on board organically, or I say organically as the story sounds like,
Right.
right? That is how organic looks like, unfortunately, right? And so when I say that, what I want to prophecy is this will continue to amplify. So those who have not started this process yet will be organically put into it,
Right.
just the same way, not the exact same way, but in that same sentiment as you and I.
Yeah, you'll feel more and more discomfort with the status quo.
Yeah, the cave will become more apparent.
Yeah.
Right? The shadow world will start to make sense less and less and less. And there will be more and more people out there telling you something else, right? Something else about the light.
Yeah.
To where you will, if you are listening and if you're open and if you actually, this is not about going with the masses. It has nothing to do with this.
No, in fact, it's almost the opposite, because this at this point in time is not a popular,
still not a popular opinion, right? But
opinion or mindset.
Yeah. But it is the journey of your individual soul, each individual soul, right? It's so even though the cave allegory, right, of my dream, we are a group of people in the cave and the shadow is there as a group. And then one person goes out and comes back and tells the story, right? It is an individualized experience, right? The cognitive awareness into the shadow that is your reality is an individualized experience.
Yeah.
And you can hear other people tell their story, right? You can hear my dream and go, oh, look, here's the cave allegory in the dream. And you can hear Elliot's story, but it will be very individualized to you, and the decision into yourself, whether or not you choose to acknowledge your insight, is yours.
Yeah.
It's very individualized.
Yeah. I would say just trust what you feel. Don't try to cover it up for, certainly not for anybody else's benefit. But what do you actually feel? And sometimes that's hard to get to, because it is covered up by maybe what other people think, or what society thinks, or what my wife or my husband or my boss is going to think, or trying to come up with something other than what other people think.
In my case, a very large part of me coming out was tied to the scarcity of fear for income.
Oh yeah.
Right?
What if our customers
hear
this?
If I'm in the professional business world and my customers find out that I am in this esoteric field, in addition to the business world, will I have any customers? And so that directly correlated into the safety of, like, to me at the time, money was tied into safety. And if I don't have money, I'm not safe. Therefore, that stirs at the core of my being.
Right.
And it took me a long time to recognize that me not coming out was tied to the safety ... through money.
Yeah.
Right. Or through income. Not money, but income, right? How will I generate income?
Yeah.
Right. Because if my husband thinks I'm crazy and wants to divorce me, to a customer dropping me as a service provider is even easier.
Yeah.
There's not a two thought there. And so that was a really big thing for me to overcome, which is becoming out all the way. Like, in fact, like, this is going to sound silly, but like, I'm like, wait, do I post this on LinkedIn and Facebook? And, and then there were these little steps. So to me were like little affirmations for self. Like, oh, I can post this as on my LinkedIn profile.
Yeah.
Right. I know that sounds silly, but that is overcoming fear. Yeah, almost looked like that to me.
Posting on LinkedIn is the coming out equivalent, basically.
This is, a lot of people, some people get offended that it's called coming out.
Right.
But the equivalent on Instagram, where you put the pronouns next to your profile or
Mhm.
your link name, right, is equivalent on a LinkedIn posting this as a job.
Yeah.
Right. Which is so silly, right? Because in that case, it's like it relates to you, what other people think.
Right.
But in my case, it's not because I care what they think, because them thinking that therefore relates to the income that I will
Right.
receive.
To me, it was at the I care what they think level.
Yeah, to
And the
me, it was
income
money.
thing, yes, that was also a concern of mine, but that was almost secondary to
Yeah,
what
to
they
me, that was
think,
primary.
which, gosh,
No, yeah. So it's not a we speak about it very nonchalantly, but it's not an easy journey, and there's a lot of very important critical decisions that almost self-identification decisions that you have to make, to where you have to unravel. Basically, the process is unraveling all the false definitions of self that keep you from experiencing what you feel inside as your truth. And we have to go, okay, well, I have identified myself as a successful, science driven individual that does not believe in juju voodoo stuff, right? And so that is a self identity.
yeah,
And in order for you to go, oh yeah, I'm staying with my wife and I think what she does is actually true, like literally would deteriorate that self identity.
yeah, it at to some level dissolves a
Yourself.
part of my identity.
No,
It absolutely did.
sooner or later, basically what this process is a complete dissolution of self.
Yes, yeah, that was a chip in the whole thing,
Yeah.
but it
Well,
was the beginning chip.
yeah, that was like opening the walnut to see the nut inside.
Sure.
That was the step of I acknowledge that I am in the cave.
Yeah.
It was acknowledgement. Guess what? I'm in the cave.
Yeah.
And there is light out there. I don't see it yet. I don't know how it looks like. I'm not sure how much truth there is to it. And I don't know how beautiful it is. But I acknowledge that I am in the cave.
Right.
Right? Good wrap.
It's a wrap. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.